Hi everybody, this is Michael Hildebrandt and I'm your host on the Sleeptrust podcast, where I'm talking about how to gain back trust in your ability to have a superb sleep again.
In this week's episode of the Sleeptrust podcast, we are going to talk about the 3 steps to boost your sleep motivation. Or in other words, what you need to do to get a motivation in yourself activated that will help you to implement the necessary changes that you need to implement to get a superb sleep again. So if you are feeling tired and fatigued more days or at daytime and more days than you are feeling fit and energized, then you kind of know that you should change things because we're all paying a price for not sleeping well. Sometimes we pay it on a daily basis and sometimes we pay it off in a big chunk when we catch a disease. So we should all be aware of this, and I know that most of us are, at least unconsciously. So if you are just not taking the steps to implement that healthy sleep habit because you are kind of accepting the status quo, or you're just feeling too fatigued to step into change, or you're constantly feeling stuck or fall off the cliff if you start to change things, then in this week's episode, you'll find out the exact 3 steps that you need to be taken to get and create and nurture a burning desire in yourself to get that lasting motivation. And that will lead you to keep up implementing the changes with ease because you now believe in your success and are highly motivated. So basically, if you think of what we're doing here as a model, the big question is, how do we get an intrinsic motivation that carries us through the change? And it doesn't matter if you want to implement a new habit of not watching TV into late hours, if you want to implement a habit of having a hot bath, having a walk, whatever serves you. And this is highly individual. There are a lot of podcasts that I did in the past that walk through different options that fit for different people. But the big question is actually, how do we get this motivation, this burning motivation fired up in our bodies? And basically, we do so by asking the why question. Why should we change? And there are basically 2 steps. So if you ask the why question, or if I typically do that in every coaching, ask the why question, why do you want to change? Why do you want to get back to high energy levels? The obvious answer always is because I want to feel energized. I want to feel awake. And that's true, of course. But it's kind of a surface thing, a rational reasoning thing. It's kind of the first answer tends to be rational. You can play that through with yourself and see if you get emotional with that answer. Probably the odds are very high that you're not going to be very emotional. So then we have to dig deeper. And we do so by continuously asking the why question. So why do you want to feel energized? Maybe for one person it is that he or she wants to be more productive at work, but that's a rational reason too. So why is it so important for you to be more productive? Because I want to have a good standing in the company. Okay, so why is that so important for you? And at some point, you will notice that things get deeper. So I want to get the acknowledgement. I want people to like and admire my work. I want people to like and admire me. And at some point, you will notice that something really touches you. And this is one example. There's no one fits everybody here, as with everything that we do. It's highly individual. So for another person, it could be, I want to have more time for my kids, for my relationship. I want to be energized. I want to be able to listen to my spouse at night and not be too tired and not interested. So that can be a core motivation. A typical big one is my health. I want to feel healthy. I want to feel energized. I don't want to feel sick and kind of bad all day. So and you have to work through that model. So you have to start asking the why question then you have to dig in deeper and ask that why question 4, 5, 6, 7 times until you notice that you get an emotional response. Say, okay, I'm in the core here. You can do that on your own. You can do it with a friend, a partner, family member, with somebody you like to do something like that and somebody you trust to do something like that. So basically the big difference, and this is why this is so important, if you're just working through rational goals, so you say, I want to do this, you need your willpower. Willpower is good. It's kind of like the engine starter. You can use willpower to get started. You do things once, twice, three times. And there are people that are really super willpower machines, kind of. They can push themselves over the limit. And they're paying a price for this. Because if you push yourself over a limit, only through using your willpower, you're not doing things that are aligned with yourself, with your body, with your soul, and you will feel bad. You might achieve a goal, but you will feel bad. If you do something, you get the engine started with the willpower. Sometimes you need willpower, even on the path. We get these hard days where you just need a little bit of willpower to kickstart yourself into the process again. But if you have a burning desire and you know exactly you're doing this for your kids, your spouse, for yourself, because you get the acknowledgement, and you have this burning desire in your body, then things are aligned with what you are, and you will just power through the process, even through hard times. And it's not going to get too exhausting because you know what you're putting the effort for in. And everything, and every energy that you spend doing things that are in line with your purpose is just going to give you energy back a couple times more than you put in the energy. That's a big secret, and that's how all successful people work, not only if they make sleep changes, but also if they have high successes on personal job-related positions, whatever. So basically, you want to take 3 steps. And the 3 steps, so you might want to take a pen right now and write them down, are kind of straightforward, as always here. Step number 1 is you want to do the big why exercise. Find out why it is so important for you to feel good at daytime, why you have to implement the changes to get to that goal. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is write a goal card. There's, I think the January podcast, the first of this year, walks you through the process of how to write a goal card. But basically, you write down your goal and when you want to have it achieved on a little card. And then the step number 3 is that you read this card once or twice a day. And you read it first thing in the morning and or last thing at night. And that way, your unconscious will just align yourself to the goal. You will know the purpose, the big why, and you will just simply implement the changes that are necessary to bring you back to a healthy sleep habit and to superb sleep again. And that will bring you back your energy levels, and everything else will fall into place. So this is not something that I just say or somebody said will work. It's baked into you. You could find tons of stories in the Bible, but I always like to pick the book Think and Grow Rich. It's from Napoleon Hill. It's 100 years old, and he interviewed I think it was the 500 successful Americans 100 years ago, and came up with things that they have in common, that they do the same to achieve their successes. Basically, he also laid out the format of the goal card, so to say. I know you'll find goal cards in many different areas, but if you look at this book, you will find that basically most goal achievement things have already been documented 100 years ago through Napoleon Hill. It's a fantastic book. So what he basically says when he goes through the goal card is that you have to emotionalize the goal. It's not about reading the goal. You have to emotionalize it. So the big why is to give us the emotion, Then the writing down is kind of creating the foundation for us to walk through the process on a daily basis. And step number 3 is actually reading it, emotionalizing it on a daily basis. And that will keep you super successful. As always, you've got a choice. You can move on as you are and just accept the price that you're paying for not sleeping good, which is feeling fatigue at daytime, not being as patient as you could be in your relationships to your spouse, your kids, your colleagues, any other people, your friends. Your health is going to suffer, of course, obviously, if you're not feeling good. What is health? Health does not only mean that we don't catch a disease. Health, for me, is feeling good and energized. And that's when I'm healthy. So that's the price that we're paying. We're not feeling good if we're not getting enough sleep. And over the long haul, we can also catch a serious disease. And that's proven. There are tons and tons, thousands of studies that have double verified that this is the case. Heart diseases, stroke, cancer, you name it. The likelihood of catching all of these are much bigger if we don't take care of our sleep. And just because I know it's hard for many of us to get excited about asking the big why question, writing goal cards and so on, because we all want to get started with the change. This is so essential and important that I do it with each and every of my clients. It's part of step number 3 out of my 9-step method. It's the Sleeptrust method that I walk each and every of my clients through. And the reason is simple. If people have not answered the question, or I'll rephrase it positive, people that have answered the big why question and read their goal card daily are much higher likely to follow through the process to actually implement the change over weeks and set a solid foundation to get back to resting sleep and to feel energized and good on a daily basis again. And that's where I want to see all of you in future. So please check this out and actually do it. It's just going to take you a couple of minutes and it's going to serve you for the long haul. So, but as said, it's your choice. You can just move on, or you can start creating an inner fire and implement a couple of simple changes, not only valuing sleep the way it should be valued, but also bringing yourself back into the position to have that sleep that you deserve to have and that I know that you can have and will have. So with that, we're basically nearly through the podcast. The last thing that I would ask you to do is to check out the website. Go to visit sleeptrust.eu. You'll not only be able to see the show notes to this week's episode, but also look at the New Year's podcast to find out exactly how you can write a goal card. And you'll also find a goal card template on the website. Just search for it. There's a little search box, a little magnifying glass on the top, and you can search for goal card. I'm sure you can find it and be able to download it. And with that, let's wrap up this week's episode of the Sleeptrust podcast. If feeling exhausted or fatigued is a common experience for you, you want to get motivated for change. Best do so by following the 3-step process that I walked you through today. Asking the big why until you get emotionalized, write a goal card, and read that goal card every single day. Also, don't forget to check out the show notes at sleeptrust.eu and download your free goal card template today. And that's it for this week's episode of the Sleeptrust podcast. I hope you enjoyed yourself and that you get motivated to change into a decent sleep habit, and that you tune in next week when we're going to talk about what sleep coaching can do for you. Until then, have a superb sleep.
Hey there, and thanks for listening to the Sleeptrust podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want to get further information on this podcast or material that will help you to gain back your sleep trust, please check out sleeptrust.eu. That's sleeptrust.eu, where you will get lots of information around sleep. And here comes some legal stuff. Everything on this podcast is my opinion only, so do not take it as an advice, as I am not a doctor, nor have I considered your personal situation. If you feel that you need medical advice, please consider getting an appointment at your doctor of trust. If you want to give me any kind of feedback on this podcast, feel free to email me at podcast@sleeptrust.eu. I hope you tune in again next week, and until then, have a good sleep.